You are listening to JosuBroadcast, Episode 6, A Life Without Social Media nor Internet. Welcome to my podcast, where there are good vibes, love, and it's only for nice people like you. Today's episode is about how life have changed before and after social media or internet. Are our lives better or worse? Is social media a hobby? This is an episode for new generations who have fun with social media and internet. It's going to be very interesting for those who have wondered what old generation used to do before social media or internet. I will answer your question with the point of view of someone who grew up without internet nor smartphones. This is my point of view. I saw how life changed. Let me start saying what I see in this new generation. I have noticed this generation seek happiness in a different way than on my generation. It's understandable. Everything changed over time and we have to adapt, but I want you to feel it. Imagine this. You like social media and internet. That's the thing now, right? But once you have kids, they won't like it. So you don't have to make them like what you like just because you say so. You'll become their enemy. I am not saying social media is bad. It's very important for communication. But we need to be aware of one day social media may be history as sending paper mails did. The most challenging thing is to adapt to this new life. Now everything works with internet. We have virtual friendships, virtual classes, and online jobs. Social interaction is less than in the 90s. Therefore, new generation may feel alone. In addition, the pandemic changed all of us. It's just one thing on top of another. It feels conversation skills may be lost through time. What will happen to intuition and perception? I don't know. This episode can be related to a life before and after the pandemic too. Am I the only one who sees these changes? There is one thing that worries me a lot. Maybe you don't notice it because you were born with internet and social media. But new generations don't have free time. Reason why they think going outside or exercising is a waste of time. They have to learn how to use a computer, fix a computer, social media, smartphones, and updates of technology. Also, they have to go to school and learn the basic things. When they think about sports, they think about e-sports, electronic sports that are video games competitions. Very different from what the old generation used to do. We had to go to school, learn the basic things, practice a sport to have fun, and exercise to have a healthy life, and that's it. New generations see exercising less important. Some students don't like it, but there is hope. Schools may have students practice a sport or do exercise as a signature, which is pretty good. Schools care the health of students. The bad news is we cannot go back to the past and live without internet, because when looking for a job, companies require to have internet skills. It seems it's mandatory not to exercise, not have fun. Internet is not bad. It has built a connection around the world, which is good for those who like languages and cultures. It makes our lives easier when we talk about learning. Another thing I see is that new generation smile and laugh less, because they are busy, and somehow being busy makes them happy. But as Confucius said, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. I already talked about that quote on episode 4, where I mentioned why hobbies may be important. That being said, I want to share with you 5 things that have changed over time. Things that we people from the 90s did. Number 1. Going to libraries. Normally, the school had its own library, where students could go and do a research to prepare a presentation. But as a second option, students could go to a local library and team up with friends to finish any essay or homework faster. And after that, you could do many activities, such as going for a walk, explore a local park, ride a bicycle. It was a whole adventure every day. In any case, libraries still exist. It won't be the same. We have internet at home, smartphones, internet cafes, and ebooks that may destroy the last libraries one day. Number 2. Practice and sport. Back in the 90s, people practiced sports more than nowadays. If there was no homework, some kids and teenagers used to go to the sport fields. Sometimes they waited in line to have a match with others. If you didn't have a team, no problem. You could team up with others. There was no reason to stay at home. Watching TV or listening to the radio was not enough. Remember, there was no internet nor smartphones. Instead of playing video games, there were local clubs that you could join in order to practice sport and have a coaching session. Others preferred to play on the streets without shoes. Others liked doing extreme activities such as biking or skateboarding. Also, any activity that involves the word climbing, like a tree or a reef, which I don't recommend. That was then. Don't put your life in danger. In my own experience, I did run barefoot playing outside. I remember losing some nails off my feet a few times, but they grew back. Next day I was running barefoot again without one nail from a pinky toe. Back in the days, people care less of getting bruises by playing outside. Number 3. Friendship. There was more social interaction 30 years ago, as you can notice on the previous activities. There were vintage phones at home that were supposed to help us communicate with others, but not everybody could afford one. Usually, you had to go to your friend's place to chat face to face, but chatting and practicing on a sport were not all we could do. There were other activities like going to the beach, a water park, hiking, dance, or simple having a meal with your friends. But this is the thing. There were no smartphones, social media, internet. There was no distraction. You were with your friends to talk, smile, and laugh. We used our imagination and sense of humor to have fun like tomorrow doesn't exist. You may say, but that's it. That's during the day. You all were bored, alone, and sad at night, or in rainy days. Of course not. The next 2 points are about that, so let's move on. Number 4. Tabletop games and roleplays. In rainy days, the best option was going to a friend's house and play tabletop games. There was always a friend who had tabletop games like chess or checkers and more. There were some friends who liked roleplays. They assumed being a teacher, detective, cook, or seller. This reminds me of a series named Stranger Things. There is an episode where the boys are playing a fantasy roleplay called Dungeons and Dragons. If you want to know more about that game, watch Stranger Things on Netflix or just Google it. I didn't like roleplays that much, but I wish I could try Dungeons and Dragons one day. Number 5. Storyteller. If no one wanted to play tabletop games at night, there was always a plan B, which was telling a story. Some were able to make up scary stories, or there was always one person who had fun experiences during the day. It never ends because every day was an adventure. There was not such a thing where you could go and see others' life like social media or internet. Moreover, there was no time to do that because we were busy living our lives, spending our free time with friends or family. Back in my days, the best moments of life were not recorded. If no one told you what they did during the day, you will never know it. And those were the 5 points I wanted to talk. It was amazing having the opportunity to grow and have fun without internet nor technology. Being honest, I like internet and video games. They are cool. If you want to know more about why video games are good, feel free to check episode 5, where I talk about simulator games. Let's wrap it up for today. After talking about how internet has changed life, I wonder what things changed through time after the TV and radio. We'll never know. Have a fabulous day. Thank you for listening to this episode. This podcast is available on Spotify and Google Podcast. You can find me on all social media like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as JosuBroadcast. I have TikTok and Instagram, but I use them to share short videos about each episode. See you then.